was sitting on the balcony of my hotel suite in Bali, the ocean humming faintly beneath the hush of nightfall, when I finally closed the video playing on my phone. My brother, dancing at his wedding. I watched it twice, not out of curiosity. Not even because I missed him. I think I just needed confirmation that it actually happened, and that I wasn't there. He was beaming. Everyone else was too. The kind of polished, picture-perfect happiness you only see in orchestrated moments. I wasn't bitter, at least not anymore. Just exhausted. From trying. From pretending this was ever a place I truly belonged. 2 months before that video interrupted my peace, I was at work scrolling Instagram when I saw it. A photo of my brother, and his fiancée standing outside a venue with a sign that said, 60 days to forever. My stomach dropped. At first I figured I had just missed the announcement. Then I checked the comments. My cousin had already RSVP'd yes, and people were tagging each other saying things like, can't wait for the big day. Wait. Why hadn't I heard anything? No call, no text, not even a generic invite in the mail. Surely they hadn't just skipped me? I told myself stupid things at first, that I was the forgotten one by mistake. Maybe they were doing intimate invites. Maybe my brother was planning something special. Maybe. By the end of that week, the only thing filling up was my silence. No invite came, no message. Just more posts from family who clearly knew, and who clearly knew I didn't. I texted my mom with something painfully obvious. Hey, did I miss something about Adam's wedding? No reply. I waited a day. Then she responded like I was asking what she had for lunch. Oh, he's keeping it small, close circle. I reread it 4 times. Cold, detached. Like the wedding was a private dinner party, and not the most significant family event we'd had in a decade. I tried laughing it off to a friend, acting like it wasn't a big deal. Maybe I was going to show up and cause drama, I joked. But the truth was quieter. Absolutely no one had thought I deserved a seat there. That evening, I sat in bed staring at an untouched calendar reminder I'd set months ago. Adam's RSVP opens. Check your email. I never deleted it. I just stared at it until I finally turned the screen black and let the thought settle in. They didn't forget to invite me. They decided not to. And somehow, that's worse. So, I booked a trip. Not to run away, but because I couldn't be home while everyone else played perfect at a wedding I wasn't allowed to enter. If I couldn't be family, I could at least be free. Far away. Somewhere warm. Quiet. Where I didn't feel like an afterthought wearing a smile. I didn't tell anyone. I packed a bag and left the day before the wedding, took a red-eye, and landed in paradise. And when someone tagged me in that video of him dancing, spinning her in the air like the world was weightless, I didn't cry. I just exhaled. Because for the first time in a long time, I believed it. My seat had never been reserved. And maybe it's time I stopped begging for space at tables I wasn't meant to sit at. It didn't start with the wedding. Truth is, I've been invisible for a long time, a ghost in my own family. Growing up, Adam was the golden child. He was loud and charming, always good at sports. Teachers loved him. Adults called him a natural leader. My parents clung to every word he said like it was scripture. Me? I was quiet, bookish. I got straight A's, but no one clapped. I drew pictures and won county art competitions, but they barely made it to the fridge. When Adam got a B in math, my dad sat with him for hours helping him study. When I came home with a perfect report card, my mom said, "Why are you stressing yourself out so much?" They said I was too emotional, too dramatic, that I took things too personally. I started to wonder if needing love was dramatic too. On birthdays, Adam got big birthday parties. Bounce houses, laser tags, gifts from cousins. When mine came around, plans were forgotten. A cake from the grocery store and a, "Sorry, we've been so busy, honey." One year, no one even sang. I remember sitting at the dinner table, watching them eat like it was any other night, with the candle flickering in my slice, waiting for someone to notice. They didn't. I wasn't abused. I wasn't beaten. That would have left clearer scars, easier to explain. What I got was more insidious. Silence around the winds, disapproval when I spoke up, and praise saved for someone who wasn't me. Adam and I were only 2 years apart, but we lived in different galaxies. My dad took him to football games, car shows. I was left with my grandmother, who once whispered to me, "You know you're just built different from them." That's not a bad thing. God, I wish I had believed her. Even in high school, it didn't stop. When I was nominated for the Honor Society, no one came to the ceremony. When I sang leading solo in the choir concert, they left halfway through. They said parking was awful. And prom? That was the one night I wanted to feel seen. I'd picked the perfect dress. I'd done my own makeup. I'd borrowed money to get my hair curled professionally. I stood in front of that mirror and told myself, they'll be proud tonight. They have to be. Then Adam burst into the venue with a group of his college friends, shirt half tucked, already reeking of weed and vodka, and stole the spotlight. Everyone was thrilled. Adam! Adam's back from uni. Teachers who barely noticed me hugged him. My mom laughed when I got upset later and said, "You're not mad about your brother showing up, are you? You're so sensitive." But the worst part? I still invited him to my graduation, my recitals, everything. I invited him to my prom, sent a ticket, even though I knew he might not come. He didn't. He never even replied. So when people tell me I'm overreacting about a wedding invitation, they don't know. It's never been about one missed moment. It's been a lifetime of being background noise to someone else's highlight reel. Being tolerated, never celebrated. And yet, I kept showing up, hoping this would be the time they saw me. I guess my biggest mistake was assuming family means fairness. But in our house, family was a spotlight, and it only ever faced one direction. It was sometime between my second coffee and the third email I didn't want to answer that it happened. I was at my desk, buried in deadlines, pretending I didn't still check my inbox every morning for a wedding invitation I had long since stopped believing would arrive. That's when my coworker Laura strolled by with her usual breezy sarcasm and said, "Is that your brother? That venue looks insane. Looks like a literal movie set." I blinked. "What?" She turned her screen toward me. Instagram. My cousin had posted a reel, sweeping drone shots of a cliffside mansion surrounded by white roses and gold-lined glass chairs. The caption read, "Can't wait for this weekend. Family only #Adam and Celine forever." Color drained from my face so fast I thought I might throw up. I didn't say anything to Laura, just forced a flat smile and turned back to my screen, letting out a laugh that didn't belong to me. "Oh yeah," I lied. "It's going to be beautiful." It hurt, but not in the sharp, shock-to-the-heart kind of way. It was slower than that, like watching someone take apart your place in the world, piece by piece, so carefully, so thoroughly, that you almost believed you were never part of it to begin with. Still, I made excuses for them. I told myself the invite must have gotten lost. Maybe it was coming to my old address. Maybe it was a surprise invite. Maybe my mom had told them I wasn't available and they didn't want to inconvenience me. I refreshed my inbox 3 times that night. Still nothing. The next day, still clinging to microscopic hope, I saw a new email come in. Subject line, "Final Family RSVP list." It was forwarded from my aunt. I didn't think much of it. I assumed she meant to share it with someone else, maybe one of her kids. But when I opened it, my stomach dropped. There it was. A spreadsheet with names under bolded categories. Family, confirmed. Family, maybe. Family, not invited. The last name on the not invited list was mine. I froze. I read it twice, and then underneath that row was a single threaded reply, a comment my aunt must have thought no one would see. "Glad OP won't be there." They ruin moments. Always find a way to make everything about themselves. I don't remember breathing or blinking, just staring at that one brutally casual message. My name reduced to 2 letters. My identity boiled down to a nuisance. I closed the email, and for some stupid reason, even after everything I had tolerated, I stood up in the kitchen and checked the mail. Nothing. No invite. No envelope. Just silence. I wanted to cry. But grief has a funny way of disguising itself as numbness. I sat on my couch scrolling through years of texts with Adam. Old pictures. Birthday greetings I sent. Graduation photos. My attempt when he broke up with Celine the first time. The long voice note I left encouraging him to follow love, not pride. All of that. Forgotten like dust on a shelf. And suddenly I was more humiliated than hurt. This wasn't just about a wedding. It was about erasure. They wanted to rewrite their story without me in it. Brand the celebration family only, which meant what? I wasn't family? I wasn't worth even faking civility for? The pain sat heavy on my chest, but with it came a flash of clarity. They didn't forget me. They chose to dismiss me, actively, consciously. And the thing is, they weren't wrong. I used to ruin moments for them. I used to speak up. I used to ask why things were unfair. I used to notice the parts they ignored. Maybe they weren't saying I was loud. Maybe I was just unafraid to make their silence uncomfortable. Still, no one defended me in that thread. No one jumped to my name's defense, which meant they all agreed. And that's when something inside me shifted. Not anger. Not yet, but the first tickle of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Resolve. The irony wasn't lost on me. I had marked off the entire week on my calendar. Blocked out meetings, rescheduled clients, turned down an out-of-state work trip. All so I could be available for a wedding I was never invited to. I had left those dates blank as a gift to people who wouldn't have noticed if I disappeared. Still clinging to whatever was left of my pride, I sent one last text. Just one, short, neutral. Hey, just checking. Am I supposed to be at Adam's wedding or no? An hour passed, then 2. Then it was a full day. Silence, so. I called my mother. It rang 3 times before she answered with the voice she reserves for calls she doesn't want to take. Flat, distant, half. Rushed. Hi, I kept my voice steady. Mom, I just want to know, am I going to Adam's wedding or not? A pause, then a tired sigh, like I was burdening her by even asking. It's complicated, she said. It's Adam's day. They just want it to be stress-free. You know how emotional things can get with you sometimes? Nobody wants drama, sweetie. That fake sugar word. The soft edge of a serrated knife. Drama. I repeated deadpan. She shifted. I could hear it in her tone. Don't be upset. It's not personal, but it was personal. Every single thing about this was personal. I was being erased to preserve their fantasy. One where nothing messy or complicated existed. One where I didn't belong. Not because I'd done anything wrong, but because I reminded them that something was wrong. I hung up before my voice cracked. Then I sat there for a long time. Calendar still open on my screen, staring at those empty days I had carved out like little gifts waiting for a purpose. And I realized, if they didn't see my worth, maybe it was time I did. I deleted the event placeholder titled Adam's Wedding and replaced it with something simple. My week, a trip. Something selfish. Something audacious. I had been saving a little. It was meant for emergencies or someday rent or a couch I couldn't quite justify. But that money, that peace, it wasn't waiting for permission anymore. I booked the ticket that night. One way to Bali, oceanfront suite. Premium ride from the airport, way out of my budget. But for the first time, I wasn't budgeting my worth. I posted nothing about it. Told no one. I just packed a bag and counted myself among the non-attending family. Then quietly removed myself from the guest list of people begging to be chosen. I boarded the flight on the day of their rehearsal dinner. 12 hours later, I was standing barefoot on warm sand. No speeches, no tulle dresses, no filtering my personality to make others comfortable. Just the sound of the waves, and breath I didn't realize I'd been holding for years. And oh God, the relief. I wasn't mourning the wedding anymore. I was mourning my habit of shrinking to fit in. They had designed a life where I was never going to be enough. Not loud enough. Not soft enough, not agreeable enough. I couldn't wear that dress, say those things, vote that way, love like that. So they left me off the list. And I realized I had spent my whole life treating their table like a reward, when it was just a stage set I kept auditioning for. Drama, they called it. They always meant me, my voice, my questions, my refusal to keep behaving like none of this ever hurt. But pain. Pain is not drama. It's a signal. It's the body saying something's wrong. And maybe it was time they felt the silence they'd created. As I stood on that balcony, drinking cheap wine from a fancy glass, I made a quiet promise. If they had no space for me in their perfect little photo albums, then I'd write my own story. One frame, one flight, one beach breeze at a time. Expand next section when you're ready. It's funny how silence can feel loud when it's your own. In Bali, I heard myself again. The real me. Not the edited version I used to water down at family dinners. Not the one who smiled through slights or carefully avoided saying things that might trigger the passive-aggressive storm. Just me. The air was warm with jasmine and sea salt. Morning started without alarms. I woke up to sunlight, not expectations. My feet made imprints on beaches no one else walked. I had never felt more alone. I had never felt more whole. I took a photo on my third day, bare feet in the sand, a sunset dipping behind me, a glass of something cold in my hand. No filters, just real light, real peace. I uploaded it to Instagram with a simple caption. Cheers from paradise. No hashtags. No context, but like clockwork, they saw it. It didn't take long before the DMs trickled in. Cousin Meg. Are you in Bali? Omjilal how? Aunt Karen. Didn't realize you were traveling. Brave of you to go alone. Read. Passive. And then it arrived. A message from Adam, the groom, the one I supposedly didn't exist to. Hey. So you really didn't care to say congratulations? That was it. Not hi. Not I missed you at the wedding. Not an answer about why I wasn't invited. Just a guilt trip in 6 words. I stared at it for a long moment. The version of me that used to draft and delete replies 20 times rose up like a phantom. Then I blinked and let her go because I didn't owe him a congratulations. I owed myself peace. Silence I'd embraced wasn't punishment, it was protection. What none of them realized is that I wasn't trying to ruin their moment. I simply stopped letting them ruin mine. No one missed me at that wedding, and they didn't expect me to be living, thriving, smiling somewhere quiet and golden without them. That was the threat. Me, existing unapologetically. So I left his message on read. No reply. No explanation. Because my whole life, I've been the one reaching out, apologizing just for being hurt, trying to keep the threads from snapping while they tied knots around my silence. But not this time. This time, I let the thread unravel. Later that night, I ordered pasta to my room, lit a candle by the tub, and watched the stars fight the clouds above me. I didn't think about the DMs or Adam or the video of him spinning her down the aisle. I thought about the girl who used to wonder what was wrong with her. The one who thought being left out meant she just needed to try harder. I poured her a glass too. She deserved the toast more than anyone. It was the pink bubble that popped up on my lock screen while I was half asleep, skin still sun-warmed from a day in the water. You probably don't want to see this, but I thought you should have it, just in case. It was Jamie, a friend I hadn't seen in person in years, someone I used to bike to school with, someone who remembered me before I shrank myself. I paused before opening it. My breath caught before I even hit play, but when I did, the video opened to candlelight, laughter, soft string music in the background. And Adam, standing with a microphone, his suit pressed, his new bride beaming beside him. His voice was steady, confident, the kind of tone he always used when he was performing for a room. Tonight, I want to thank the people who made it, the ones right here beside us. This room, he paused for effect, smiled. This room proves that real family isn't blood. It's loyalty, support, it's choosing each other. And that's why I only invited the ones who mattered. The audience erupted in applause. Some people even stood to clap. You could hear someone say, "Preach." Off camera, I watched it through once, then again, because he said it like a sermon, like exile, like truth, and everyone agreed. I sat up, replayed it once more, and saved the file to my phone under a folder I renamed Receipts. not because I planned to use it, but because I knew I couldn't forget it. The phrases rattled around in my mind. Only invited the ones who mattered. Real family is loyalty. I guess by that logic, I was never family. Even DNA couldn't save me from being forgotten. And the worst part? He wasn't even hiding the cruelty. He was proud of it, as if cutting me out fit perfectly into his picture of loyalty. But then, something else stirred. Not tears, not rage, just clarity. He had made a speech about bonds, about choosing people who show up, and for the first time I believed him. We do choose. We choose who we answer, who we sit beside, who we protect, who we show up for, and they had made their choice. Now, it was my turn. For so long, I'd carried around this ache of not being picked. But what if the pain wasn't proof something was wrong with me? Only proof that I was meant to build something elsewhere. The girl I once was would have spiraled after this video, tried to fight for a voice in the room that muted her years ago. But I wasn't that girl anymore. Not after the silence. Not after the beach. Not after that wine glass clinking alone under starlight. I didn't need a seat at their table. I was finally learning to build my own. 3 weeks passed after Bali. The tan faded, the inbox filled up again, and life found its ordinary edges. Grocery lists, parking tickets, folding laundry on a bed that felt emptier than before. But something was different now. I wasn't waiting for texts that would never come. I wasn't dreaming up fake closeness with people who only noticed me when I made them uncomfortable. I had finally let the idea of them go. And then the email came. Subject: regarding the estate of William Jonathan Palmer. My stomach dropped at the name. Grandfather, my mother's dad, the one we didn't talk about unless it was in whispers. For the last decade, he was the family ghost, alive but distant, opinionated but ignored. We hadn't spoken in years, not since I was 19, and he awkwardly handed me a birthday card with $400 in cash and wrote, "Don't let them dim you." I had no idea what he meant by them back then. Now I did. The message was from his estate attorney, something about probate arrangements, and a formal reading of his will. Apparently he had passed quietly, no ceremony. Typical for him. What was not typical was this sentence sitting in the middle of the email like a trapdoor. You have been named as a partial beneficiary and executor of assets listed in the urban holdings of Palmer Investments. I reread it 4 times. Me, executor. I scrolled further and then froze when I saw the PDF attached. A ledger of properties. One address stood out immediately, bolded even. 7 William Heights Lane, Petra Garden Estate. I knew that name. I'd seen it in ads online. I'd seen it tagged in the wedding posts. That was their wedding venue. The one Adam chose. The fantasy setting. The one with the cliff and the statue-lined walkways and the private glass ballroom. I looked it up again to be sure. Yup. Same place. They'd gotten married there not knowing it belonged to Grandpa. Not realizing they were posing for photos on someone's turf who had never bent to the hierarchy they worshipped. And now, in a twist no screenwriter would dare write for fear of feeling too poetic, it belonged to me. Apparently, Grandpa had quietly kept full ownership through a shell company, divorced from the main family business. No one was tracking it anymore. They assumed he sold it. He hadn't. And now, it was mine to decide on. I sat with that for a long time, pacing the edges of my living room, emotion swirling. Not vengeance, not even satisfaction. Something more sobering. Like fate had gone out of its way to say, I saw what they did to you. And I didn't forget. I wrote back confirming I'd attend the reading. I knew already how this would play out. The confusion, the snide remarks, the moment my name is called. But this time, I wouldn't be walking into the room looking for a seat. I'd be walking in holding the deed. They had their celebration, their sparkle and speeches and exclusive guest list. But let's see how long real family mattered when the paperwork said otherwise. The Petra Garden estate looked different when it wasn't wrapped in chiffon and florals or filtered through someone else's fantasy. Stripped of wedding decor, it looked cold. Expensive, yes. Beautiful, sure. But cold. Like something built to impress, not to hold real people. I stepped out of the car slowly, alone, dressed simply, but well. Neutral tones. No jewelry. Clean confidence. I wasn't here to play dress-up like they always said I did. I was here to listen. My heels echoed down the walkway as I approached the glass entry. Inside, through the double doors, I could already see them. My mother by the window. My aunt pretending to check her phone. A few cousins sipping water with wary eyes. And Adam. He was seated in the middle, legs crossed, suit too stiff for a legal reading. Smug didn't even cover it. He wore the expression of someone convinced their name was the headline. I opened the door. Conversations dropped like glass, hitting tile. My mother pressed her lips into a tight line and clutched her purse as if this were a robbery. My aunt leaned too, whisper, not even attempting to lower her voice. Why are they here? No one rose to greet me, no hug, just wide eyes and bitter undertones. I nodded, not smiling. Sat down in the seat farthest from Adam. The estate attorney walked in moments later with a leather folder and a laptop. He looked around, then gave an amused sort of half smile when his eyes landed on me. I see everyone made it, he said, smoothing his tie. Shall we? He began with formalities. Grandpa's date of death. Overview of the estate. Legal disclaimers. My mother cleared her throat every few minutes, as if waiting for him to deliver some official confirmation that none of this involved me. Then, the attorney paused. There's one housekeeping note we need to address before we begin distribution. He glanced down at the folder, then up, straight at Adam. Before we start, ownership of this property has changed hands. The room rustled. What does that mean? My aunt asked sharply. The attorney folded his hands. This venue is part of the estate assets recently reassigned by William Palmer. As of 3 weeks ago, before his passing, Petra Garden Estate is under the legal control of, he turned his head slightly, the named executor for that portion of the will. My full name. Silence. Utter, stifling silence. Adam furrowed his brow like he'd misheard the cue. My mother went pale. I heard her whisper, "That's not possible." My aunt gasped, muttered something about needing to call someone. I didn't flinch. I didn't gloat. I just reached into my tote bag, slowly pulled out the notarized copy I received from the lawyer's office, and placed it on the table. Receipt. Fact. Proof that this wasn't a guest appearance. This was ownership. If anyone has questions, I said quietly. My attorney's contact is stapled to the final page. Adam blinked like the lights had just come on in a room he didn't know he was standing in. But you weren't even close to him, he said, trying to find footing. I mean, why would he? The attorney cut in. William Palmer was clear in his directives. This transfer was intentional, documented, and irreversible. I didn't speak again. I didn't need to, because I hadn't come to argue. I hadn't come seeking anything. Either not forgiveness, not validation, not some last-minute family recognition. I came because the paper said it was mine, and because, after a lifetime of being the name left off the list, this time I didn't need to be invited. This time, I was the one holding the door, and deciding who walked through it. The Petra Garden estate was quiet now. No string quartet rehearsing. No aisle petals being scattered. No fake smiles fixated on a photographer's signal. Just soft sun filtering through polished glass walls, and my own footsteps echoing on the marble floors they once danced on. Funny, it looked bigger when it wasn't curated for someone else's fairy tale. The last time I saw this place was through a pixelated Instagram reel. Adam spinning his bride under the chandeliers, my mother clapping beneath a canopy of florals. Back then I was background static. Now, I was the only sound in the room. I walked slowly through the atrium, trailing my hand across the surface of the formal dining table now, cleared of silverware and dreams. I could almost hear the skeletons, speaking in whispers between the napkin folds. That's when I felt the air shift, behind me. Adam stood near the arched entry, his jaw tense, He looked freshly shaken, as if he hadn't quite processed that none of this was metaphor. "Did you do all this to spite us?" he asked. The question wasn't angry, just confused. Like a prince finding out the drawbridge answers to someone else now. "You think you deserve this?" I turned to face him fully, not with confrontation, just a calm that felt foreign on my own skin. "No," I said. "I didn't deserve what you did. The wedding, the silence, the room full of applause when you erased me out loud, that I didn't deserve." Adam looked away. For a second, even he couldn't pretend it hadn't happened. "But this?" I continued, gesturing around. "This wasn't given. This wasn't inherited. This was earned. Not from you, not from any of them. From pain. From learning to breathe through it. From surviving people who only know how to perform love." He didn't respond right away, just stared past me, at the venue, his venue, like memory alone could overwrite ownership. "You shouldn't be here," he said eventually, softer now. "You didn't belong. You don't—" I cut him off, not with volume but finality. "I do. I belonged more than you ever let me. But you all made sure I'd never feel it. Generational gatekeeping, dressed up in table settings and forced laughs." He opened his mouth like he wanted to argue, but then he hesitated. He knew I wasn't wrong. "I know about the anniversary party," I said plainly. "The one you and Celine scheduled here for next month. I got the RSVP list your event planner accidentally sent to my inbox." His face paled. I reached into my tote and pulled out a printed notice, folded once, clean lettering. "I canceled the booking," I said, handing it to him. "Per the lease agreement, I have full authority over use of the space. And, well, this event?" I smiled, just a little. "This one's for family only." He didn't bite back. No fit. No eruption. Just stunned silence, and the kind that finally says, "I see it now." I walked past him, my shoes clicking with unfamiliar weight. Not vengeance, not victory. Just presence. Finally, presence. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't enter a space to be accepted. I entered because it was mine. When the group text came through, a rare moment of digital unity among my fractured family, it simply read, "We should sit down, talk, clear the air, no apology, no context, no ownership, just a shallow olive branch the moment I became valuable." I agreed. Out of curiosity more than desire. We met at my aunt's house, the same colonial two-story where holidays had happened for years without me. The front door was already open when I arrived, as if letting people walk all over you was the family motto. The living room furniture hadn't changed in decades. Plastic still stretched over the couch cushions like it had always meant to preserve appearances more than comfort. They were already seated. Mom, 2 uncles, my cousin Melissa, and Adam. My mother looked like she hadn't slept. Adam wore disappointment like a fitted suit. I gave a small smile and sat at the end of the dining table. No one offered me a drink. That was fine. I had my own presents now. I didn't need theirs. There was small talk at first. Faux affection. My mother asking how my trip was, like she hadn't ignored it out of spite before. My uncle made a joke about weddings and guest lists. Haha. I let them talk. I nodded. I listened. But I didn't give them anything. Not rage, not forgiveness, not tears. Just intelligence wrapped in patience. Finally, after the pleasantries wilted into awkward silences, I cleared my throat. Reached into my bag, pulled out a single manila folder and placed it in the center of the table. "Here," I said, "my final act of peace." They stared. I opened the folder and carefully slid the document toward the middle where everyone could read it. "Effective immediately," I said. "Evenly, the Petra Garden estate will be donated to the Monarch Foundation for Restored Families. It'll be transformed into a retreat and resource center for teens aging out of the foster system, in Grandpa's name." My mother choked out a sound, something between a gasp and a protest. You're giving it away?" I nodded once. My uncle scraped his chair back hard. "You could have rented it," he barked. "Made money. Kept it in the family. Why would you?" "Because this version of our family doesn't know how to use beautiful things without locking people out of them," I replied calmly. Adam was silent. Still. Not defiant, not pleading. Just still. He didn't say anything. His eyes fell to the contract. I was done being their inheritance. Done being the apology they never made. The proof that if I stayed long enough, I might be picked. This wasn't revenge. Not really. It was redirection. The closing of one chapter, not with fire, but with finality. They called it family only, I said, rising from my chair. So now someone else gets to define what family means inside those walls. Hopefully, one that doesn't forget each other. No hugs, no thank yous, just silence. The same silence they used to silence me, only this time. I was the one who left it behind. Back home, the air felt different. Not clearer, not yet, but still. Uncluttered. Like the noise had finally stopped. My phone wasn't blowing up anymore. No more emails. No more half-hearted messages from relatives scrambling to make things right in vague, performative language. It was just me. And the people who had stayed. And what surprised me most? I wasn't alone. Jamie, the friend who sent me the wedding video, brought over Thai food and did that thing friends do when they know you're tired of telling the story. She didn't ask. She just sat on the floor with chopsticks and said, "Let's watch something trashy." She didn't need to understand everything to be there. No speeches, just comfort, the real kind. A week later, my neighbor Alicia, who I barely knew, dropped off a pie and a handwritten card. I had told her in passing I wasn't close with my family. Somehow, she heard the unsaid parts. Her note ended with, "Hope you'll join us for dinner next Sunday." Nothing fancy, just people who like each other. That phrase stuck with me. People who like each other, not people who share blood, or last names, or a schedule full of obligations, just people who choose each other. The group chat with my work friends lit up that weekend. They wanted to throw a never-needed-an-invite dinner. I laughed when I read that, showed up in sweatpants, stayed 5 hours. We shared stories about ridiculous relatives and petty dramas and karaoke nightmares. Someone toasted to people who don't need to prove our worth to be loved. I didn't think that would hit as hard as it did, but I took that sip like it was holy. And sitting there, full, tired, unfiltered, I realized I wasn't grieving my family anymore. I was grateful for what was left after they were gone, for the space they unknowingly cleared out by pushing me aside. Because the ones who matter, they don't need you to perform, or shrink, or prove you won't ruin moments. They invite your whole self, especially the messy parts. And the best thing I ever did was stop waiting for a place I had to beg to exist in. I started creating spaces. Instead, my apartment became warmer, brighter, not with renovations, just with intention. I started hosting small Friday night hangs. Nothing fancy. Just tea, old vinyls, and the kind of laughter that doesn't feel like a checklist. People showed up, with snacks, with openness, with joy that didn't come at my expense. No RSVPs required. The message came late. No subject line. Just a single gray bubble sitting under his contact name. Adam. I hadn't heard from him since the venue was donated, and I assumed, maybe hoped, that silence would last forever. But here it was. Wish you could stop being dramatic. We are still family. I stared at it, cheeks slack, throat dry. Dramatic. That word again. The one they loved to use when I told the truth too clearly. When I reacted instead of swallowed. When I dared to feel something they didn't approve of. I think they believed it would still work. That by calling me dramatic, they could reset the power. Rewind the narrative. Center themselves again. But I wasn't a stage anymore. I had taken the spotlight back. I didn't respond right away. I reread it the next morning with fresh eyes and half a smile. And then I typed. Slowly. No filter. No venom. Just clarity. Family would have saved me a seat. Simple. Final. And I blocked the number. There was no lightning bolt. No final chord in a revenge anthem. Just peace. That rare kind of peace that comes not from winning, but from stopping the chase, letting go of what should have been and honoring what is. I looked around my apartment. Soft light spilling across the rug. Dinner still warm on the stove from a night in with people who'd never once questioned if I belonged. No holiday performance. No silent tally of who gave what or said what or wasn't grateful enough. Just presence. Just mutual choosing. Family. Real family. And as I settled into the couch, a tiny glass of leftover wine in one hand, soft music humming low in the background, I let the moment stretch out like a closing curtain. Not sad. Not bitter. Just done. Because if you spend your whole life trying to earn a seat at someone else's table, maybe it's time to build your own. Mine has room, no dress code, no guest list, and no one gets disinvited for telling the truth.